Yeah, so today we are going to discuss about the web services. We discussed REST and SOAP we have, right? So we'll discuss REST today. Keep the heading as REST integration or REST API integration. Anything is fine. Both are same. Write it down. REST API integration. REST represents or abbreviation of REST actually. So REST stands for anything is fine. You can go ahead. Representational state transfer is nothing but REST. Representational state transfer. REST stands for representational state transfer is a simple stateless architecture. Stateless architecture. Simple stateless architecture. Full stop. I'll repeat again. REST stands for representational state transfer is a simple stateless architecture. Next line. Next line. That provides that provides the ability to interact with the ability to interact with various service now functionalities, ability to interact with various service now functionality within your application. Full stop. Various service now functionalities within your application. Full stop. Next line. Such functionalities includes the ability to perform grid operations is nothing but C stands for create, R stands for read, U stands for update, D stands for delete. Grid operations on existing tables. On existing tables. Okay, I'll repeat again. Search functionalities includes the ability to perform grid operations on existing table. Okay, next write it down. Subheading prerequisites or basic requirement. Anything we can inform as like pre requesty sites, or basic requirement, basic requirement or criteria to perform REST, to perform REST. To perform REST, write it down. First one, endpoint or API, endpoint or API, both are same actually. Next one, request body, request body. Third one, authentication details, authentication details. Fourth one, HTTP methods. Fifth one, HTTP headers. Sixth one, we have, let's find sample response, sample response, and HTTP status. So last two is like a not a mandatory, but the above things are like in mandatory actually. Okay. So these basic requirement or prerequisites to perform REST is like a really important. Even in interviews also, they'll ask. Okay, first point, endpoint or API, request body, authentication details, HTTP method, HTTP headers, sample response, and HTTP status. Okay, now, so let us discuss about like in what is REST and then what we are going to do there and how to start with that. Okay, so REST is something as we discussed. This is one of our web services. In web services, you have like in many, and among those there are like in only few which we use for like a lot of clients. You know, in different projects and all, we use mostly REST. And if the other than REST, will go with like in SOAP. If it is like in regarding any importing bulk amount of records of users, groups, and roles, then we'll go with LDAP. Okay, and there is like in some other things, it will be like in very rare which you are going to use in different projects. So let's focus on like in REST and SOAP here. Okay, so REST is something, this is one of our web services. Web services we already discussed about is nothing but this is going to make, or else this is going to give an option to interact with the two applications. So integration is something communicating with the two applications, right? Either any application from like in one to one or many as well, which we can communicate with multiple applications at the same time as well, right? So here REST is going to get like in the great or the main place over here. Lot of projects will be there with like in REST APIs only. Okay, so REST is something, it stands for representational state transfer, so which is something with simple architecture, it will be there. Okay, so what's the purpose of it? So what it is gonna do is nothing but the ability to interact. So it will provide the ability or capability to interact with the another applications. From, let's say, from ServiceNow to third party applications like Jira or Salesforce or Azure or anything. Something if you wanna communicate, if or else if you wanna interact with like in any other application servers or machines or anything, then we are going to utilize the web services. So these web services have an ability to interact with another applications. Okay, so after interacting, after going ahead, so what we are gonna do, what's the purpose of like and going ahead with that is nothing but we can perform CRUD operations. Let's say we can pull the records as well from a third party application. Let's say there is like 1,000 records is available in the third party application, and with that 1,000 records we just need to work something else. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll pull that data by using ServiceNow integration. Okay, and after pulling those data, we will store in our ServiceNow tables, and then we'll work on those stuff. Maybe like creating a new records, or else reading those, or else updating those, or deleting those, or else performing some other internal implementations, or else sending this data again to like in any downstream systems or any other applications as well. We can do all these depends on like in the requirement only. So depending on like a requirement, we'll go ahead with the process, but the basics which we just need to know, right? So that's how which we will proceed further. Okay, so we are going to perform a CRUD operations. So whatever the requirement might be, so depending on like in the requirement, we are going ahead with the requirement. Let's say one of my project which I worked on is there is a Siemens. Siemens is a third party application which we are going to integrate with the service now to Siemens, and in Siemens they are going to create a incident records there. So whenever the incident record is created over there in the Siemens application, immediately that should be create even in our service now application as well. Even here also that should happen. So what will happen? We just whenever if there is like any update is going on, let's say they have changed the state or they have added the work notes or something else in Siemens application of specific record, that will come and update even here as well if the integration is like and done properly. Okay, so that's how depending on like in the requirement which we work with like in all these things, and we will fulfill the requirement actually. Okay, so hope you understand. So after communicating what we do, after it's like and after communicating the third party application, or else after the connection is like an established with the third party application, what we are going to do actually is something we are going to perform grid operations, or else pulling out the data, or else creating a records, or else updating those records, or else we can delete it as well. So whatever the requirement is there, that's what which you are going to fulfill. Okay, so to fulfill that one, we just need to utilize the web services, and here we are in REST. Okay, so let's say example. So I just got a requirement from like in one application to another application. Let's say from service now to I just need to send the data to like in any tool, third party tool. Let's say example XYZ. Okay, so this any information, let's say example, whenever I created records, or let's say we'll go with in this way. Whenever this specific application they created a records, okay, so that should be created even in a service now as well. Let's say incident records. Okay, incident records need to be created even in our service now application as well. Okay, so that's how we are going to start our work. Okay, so to do that, so to work on this one, so we just need to start with like a few basic requirements or prerequisites to start or to perform REST API integration actually. So before going into this, let me ask you like a simple question. If I want to send a parcel or else any kind of gift box to my friend from here to somewhere else, let's say I'm staying in like an ABC city. Okay, so my friend is in XYZ city. or else you can take up like in any place as well, let's say from London to India or else anywhere, US to UK, anywhere. Okay, so to do that, so I just need to send a parcel from like in this location to that location. So ABC is like in my location where I stay, and XYZ city is like in my colleague or friend place. Okay, so to send that parcel, what you people are going to do? Just give me like in the points one by one, so that we will get to know about like in more detailed or more easy way which you can grab it, how the basic requirement of the REST integration will go ahead. So if you are clear with this, and we will connect this to like an our prerequisites, and we will understand completely clearly. Okay, let me get like a few inputs from you. So what we need to do?
We need to properly pack the parcel.
Okay, packing, nice. Next,
After that, we need to get down the address of two address, like our
yes,
friends,
address of friend. Okay,
and we need to check with the providers. If it is international, then we need to go with international cargo.
yeah. Okay, let's have like in no, not international. It's like in our country only, within the country only.
Within the country means we can go with courier, DTDC, or some other.
Exactly. So we just need a channel, right, for that.
Yeah,
Okay, so let's say example post service, post office service, anything. Next,
and the tracking ID.
yes, tracking ID. Then,
Then the parcel will reach to the end user.
yeah, acknowledgement,
Yeah,
whether that's done or not, right?
yes,
Or
yes.
else we can go with a response.
Response. Yeah,
Yeah. Then,
I think
yeah.
that's all, Priyanka.
Okay, good to know then. Thank you for the responding for my question. Okay, so see here, I might add like a few more things as well. Let's say endpoint. Endpoint is something, the address. So that's what it's like in clear. So let me clear with this now, and we'll go with the basic requirement. So address should be there for sure. Okay, so without an address, the post office service person or postman doesn't know where this to be delivered. Okay, and which services he is going to go ahead. Maybe like in post office he can go. Maybe like, and there is a third party vendors also will be there to go ahead at. Okay, so courier services we do have a lot right now. Private also we have, so we can track that as well. So the basic mm, services, whatever which is there, that's a channel or is the main thing, whatever we have there. Okay, and here we just need to go ahead with like, and there is a speed post. Okay, there is like a normal post and all these things as there, right? So type as well. So what type of post which you're sending it? Even that also we can add. And then there should be like in one authentication is signing ourselves while we are sending our parcel. So we just need to fill one form and need to sign over there. Okay, so our signature should be there, or else our uh, approval. Okay, fine. So that's how which we just need to look on. So, and one more thing is like in body of a letter, or is the type of a parcel or anything. Okay, so the body should be there. The body is nothing but the parcel only. We need that parcel for sure, right? Whatever the process might be after signature, we need to submit that parcel to them, then it will go ahead. So body or object or parcel or anything, or gift or box or anything. Okay, so let's get into like an R1 as well. Okay, so one by one, which will go ahead over here. No need to confuse, it will be really easy to understand. Okay, so whenever I want to send any data from like in one or is data or any product or something else, I need to send from one place to other place. I just need to follow these stuff. In general, one or three might be like and vary, but anyhow the things should be there, right? So in the same way, if I want to send, any data from like an, let me keep it over here, from service now to, let's say, Lenovo is the third party application, anything which you can go ahead. So here just mention like an third party application. Okay, so if I want to send a data from like in one application to other application, okay, so while doing the integration, so I just need these details to configure in our application. Right. So if it is like an inbound integration, they will provide these things. If you want to note it, you can note it. If it is like an outbound integration, if it is an inbound integration, we are going to provide these details. Okay, so inbound is something we are going to provide the details to them, endpoint, request body, authentication details, all this. If it is like an outbound, they will provide the details and we will configure in our ServiceNow application instance. Okay, so let us interlink with this and this actually. Okay, so here I just need to send this the parcel to like in here, right? So what I can do now, let's relate to like in the service now to third party application. So the first thing which have is like an address. So address is something where the packet or the box should be delivered, right? So we just need to know mm, the specific address or location to be sent. Okay, in the same way, we just need to get an endpoint or API of a third party application. So simply API or endpoint is nothing but application link. So we have a instance link, right? If I go to incident table, the link will be elaborated with an incident table name with a sys of a record and everything which will come up. So we just need to get like in the third party application API, which we call it as an endpoint as well. So application link, the third party application link will get it. Okay, so the link is nothing but something, let's say Lenovo. Okay, so HTTP is with Lenovo dot, if it is like in ServiceNow application, servicenow.com it will be there. And furthermore, in which table we are going to access, what kind of thing and all we need to access, that will be provided there in end of a link actually. So this is something we need an address of a third party application. That's what we'll get that application link. Okay, and the next thing we can go ahead with like an request body. So request body is nothing but whenever I send a, whenever I do, let's say example, I have an address. Okay, so if address I have an address, I need to send a body. Is nothing but something I need to send a box. Okay, so this box one is nothing but something request body. So what kind of data I'm going to send it? So here I told you, right? The ServiceNow data from ServiceNow, I'm going to send few data into the third party application from here to there. Okay, so that body, what kind of data or else record information with the full fields as well. Let's say I need to send 10 records. That will be in XML format usually. Okay, so record information which we can send it. Request body is something record with the all the fields and field values will be there. Okay, what you are sending is nothing but we are sending a request to them. Okay, and then authentication details is something. So after submitting it, before submitting the parcel, so we just need to fill some form or they will do in their applications as well. Digitalized things came many now. Okay, so they will uh, perform all things in like an system only, okay, in the PC only, but anyhow there should be like in something authentication, right? That's what we call it as here the signature in a this thing in this example. Whereas if I go over here, authentication details should be there. So we do have like in many authentication types. One is like in basic, auth, auth to 1.0, 2.0. Okay, and furthermore we do have like JWT tokens as well, JSON web tokens. So this is what something which we use very frequently. The first two and third one is like a very rare. So this is what very new thing which we got it in one of my client called CIOT actually. So they we work with like in JSON web token as well. Okay, so here the authentication is something why we need to use this. Okay, so let's say they have provided the link of like an endpoint of their application link, and they have provided the request. Okay, so we have like a link, and we can go ahead with this as well. So if they are providing access for each and every user, okay, so that there will not be any kind of security provided over there, right? So the applications, whatever they are using, that should not be misused, and then no one should not hack the data. Okay, so what they'll do, they will keep an authentication like, username, password, or else any authentication like giving a certifications, tokens, okay, or else access IDs or a secret keys. Okay, that kind of information and all, which we are going to configure in authentication details. Authentication details is nothing but we are providing a security to the third party application and our application. So if I give access to only for specific users, then it will be secure, right? If I'm going to remove these authentication details, let's say example, everyone will come up, it will be a open source, and then our data will not be a top of way, that might be have hacked, or else that might be like misused in another way. Okay, so that's the reason which we just need to keep focus on like an authentication details. So types of authentication is nothing but basic auth, and JWT is a very new one. So most of the people might not know this one, but anyhow, so it will be better if you know it. That's what I was highlighting this as well here. Okay, and furthermore, the next one, we do have a HTTP method. So I told you here type, right? What type of thing which we need to do it. Okay, speed post or normal post or anything. Okay, so here we just need to mention the methods is something. What kind of operations should be done? CRUD operations we have discussed, right? So what kind of operation it is? Are we going to create a record, or else are we going to read, or else pull the records, or else are we going to update the records? Okay, or else are we going to delete the records? So operations which we get it. So here we do have like an operation, something we call it as like an get. Get is something getting the records or pulling the records from a third party application. Is nothing but something reading the records. And we have a put.
Hey, sup.
Okay, put is something we are going to update the records. Okay, and we have a post. Post is for creating a record. Okay, and we have a patch. Patch is also for updating a record, and there is an interview question difference between put and patch. Okay, so put is something is just creating and updating a record, and patch is something only updating. So let's say example, if I give you an scenario call, I have updated 10 records. Okay, among the 10 records, already 3 records is already there in the third party application. Okay, and 7 are not there. So what it will do, the 3 will be like an updated, and the 7, whatever the records is not there, that will be updated, sorry, created. Okay, so don't get confused. Patch is only updating.
Yeah.
If I don't have any records, existing records, then it will not create a new records.
నేను ఎవడ
Only the
పిలవట్లేదా
existing, if only the existing things, whatever which is there. Okay, so only the existing thing, whatever which is there, that will be updated if I go with the patch method. If I go with like input method, what will happen? If I'm sending 10 records, if 3 is already there, that will be updated, and the rest of the 7 will be created as well. Okay, so instead of like an only updating, it will go ahead with like an putting the records in the table as well. Okay, patch is something pasting the existing stuff only. Okay, post is something creating a new records, and then get is something we are just getting the data from a third party application, or else the third party application sending the records, and we are receiving those records as well. Okay, and one more thing is like, and we have a delete. So this is something which we use to delete the records. Okay, so that's how it will be. So HTTP methods is something what kind of operations we are going to perform in integration. Okay, so these things I told you right already, we are going to perform CRUD operations. Okay, so these are the methods which we use. Okay, the next thing, headers. Headers is something what kind of data it is, what kind of, maybe like an XML data, HTML data, or else maybe plain text data or JSON data. Okay, so that kind of data, what we are sending is nothing but that word. So type of data. So I told you like, and we can send data from like in one application to other application. So here data is nothing but records only, table records only. Okay, so here we have accept and content type. I'll tell you what these two is. Okay, so accept. So accept is nothing but what kind of data the application will accept. Let's say example, uh, our service now will accept only JSON data and XML data. Okay, and then the content type what we are receiving from a third party application also should be either JSON or XML. If it is like an other than that, then it will not accept the data, because the rule or the header, whatever which they have a thing, whatever it is there. Let's say example here, let me mention JSON. JSON is something I'll show you how that look like. It will be like in a flower braces with a field name and a field value, which will be in a double quotes. I'll show you that too as well. Okay, let's say it is accepting only JSON for now. Okay, the data which we are receiving from them also should be in JSON only. If other than that, XML or HTML or raw data or form data. So these kind of data is like and coming from a third party application, it will throw an error. It will not accept the data while we are receiving from a third party application. Okay, that's for headers is something we need to configure what kind of headers we are accepting and what we are getting. Okay, so these two are like an important, and they will be like in something as well like parameters and all. If that is there, then the client is going to provide all the details in documents. Okay, and then sample. So these things should be like in there for sure. Actually, whenever we are going to start a requirement, let's say integration thing is like in gonna start, and you are good with like in all the requirement. And immediate action, what you need to do is like, and you need to ask these data from a third party application data, which from a your client or client team, whoever it might be, which is available from a third party application. Just ask them these stuff. So usually they will provide you for sure. Okay, if they are not giving this data and they're asking you to start the work, okay, for sure you just need to ask these details: endpoint, request body, authentication details, what's the method, what's the header you are using. Okay, so these things which you can ask them actually. Okay, and after getting these stuff, okay, so this is what the sample resume response is something else. What kind of response we are going to provide? Okay, so first thing there is like in few stuff. Let's say I created a incident record with third party application. So the response will be like in JSON body will be there with the all the fields with the field name as well will be available. Okay, and there is like in one more thing. I'll show you the JSON stuff as well. If it is like in scripted REST API, which we go, let's say example, if we are going to use like a REST message usually, if we are want to customize this response as well, only these fields I need to showcase, only these stuff I need to go ahead. Okay, then I can use the scripted REST API and I can get a response. So response is nothing but the response which you are receiving from a third party application. Third party application. Okay, so that's what which we can call it as like a response. Okay, and one more thing, you might have like a one more question as well, like endpoint they are going to provide you, right? Okay, so when we are going to send them any endpoint, when we are doing like an inbound integration, so if we want to customize the endpoint, the whatever the thing which is coming when we copy it, you need not to provide that one. You need to customize. You need to change something in a URL. Then you can go with the scripted REST APIs, or else you can directly go with like a REST message, and mostly depending on like an requirement we choose whether that or this, most probably 60 to 70% or more than 90% we use REST message only. Okay, I'll show you that as well later. Okay, so sample response is something the response from a third party application, so we can give like a sample data to them too. for better understanding and reference. Okay, next thing is like an HTTP status. Okay, let's say example, I have sent any data from like in one application to other application. So how would I know that whether that is received to them or not, whether the connection is like an appropriate or not, or else if there are any exceptions or errors or else any something happened in between, how would I know? That is nothing but we have a HTTP status. So status means nothing but something. There is a 200, 201. Okay, there is a 401, and there is like an 500. In this way, we do have like an HTTP status. So each number has one specific meaning actually. So 200 is nothing but incident or else the record got created. We'll get like in 200 okay response as like an HTTP status, then it is created, record is created. If it's 201, then the record is updated. Okay, if it is like in 401, then the authentication details whatever which we provided is not correct, is incorrect. Okay, if we receive like in 500 HTTP status whenever we send it, then this is the internal server errors we have. So we just need to check on if there is any, exceptions is going on internally, then we will cross verify that and we will check it. So whenever you get 500 error while you are working, just check it out the endpoint, whatever which you use, whether that is a correct one or not. If this is correct, then this will not come mostly. Okay, and 401 is something authentication details, cross verify whether you're giving a proper user ID and password, and then the token, if it is like in tokens, and whether that is tokens coming properly or not, all this. Okay, and furthermore, there is like in 500 201. 201 is something where the record is updated. 200 is something the record is created. Okay, so note it down if you want. Okay, it will be like and really helpful for you and important as well. Okay, so that's how which we are going to send data from one place to, sorry, in one application to another application. If it is like in one place to other place, we need all this, right? So the response is done. Tracking ID, something here, this HTTP status I can say. Okay, let me go with like in the parcel or body, something I can go with like a request body. Okay, signature is something authentication details, and the type of a thing is nothing but HTTP methods. Okay, tracking ID is something HTTP status. Okay, and what kind of services it is. Okay, so this services is something what we are using. So we are using REST API integration here. Okay, so they have used like a post office to send data, send the parcel from one place to other place. That's how here we are using REST web services actually. Okay, and address is nothing but the endpoint. Okay, so that's how we will work on like in these things. And externally, we do have like in headers as well. Headers is something what kind of data we are accepting from a third party application and what we are getting from them. Okay, that should be same actually. If it is like an, let's say instead of this, if it is like an XML and we are accepting this one, and then content type also should be XML only. Okay, so that's how which we work with like in all this. Okay, so now let us discuss about like, and let's say the requirement is we got it from a client. Okay, and we are working with like in the integration with REST API, and everything is like and discussed over a call with client as well, and all done. And you got a documentation. In the documentation, so in the document you got all the details with the requirement, and all the details of endpoint, request body, authentication, and everything all set from client side. So what is the next step you need to do? Okay, so what you need to do is nothing but you just need to test these data, whatever you got it from a third party application is correct or not. Okay, while copy pasting it, they might miss something, or else they might, do any mismatching or something might happen. So for a better safe side, before starting in our ServiceNow instance, these configurations and these implementation in our ServiceNow, we just need to check this one. We just need to verify whether that is a proper data or not from a third party application. Okay, so to do that, so instead of like in the ServiceNow instance. Okay, so we have for testing a Postman tool. Okay, so to open this one, to go ahead with then, go to the Google and click on like an Postman tool and install it. Okay, you will get this after giving your access data and all. Okay, so now here there is like in collections, right? In the top you do have like in home, workspace, API networks and everything. Okay, if you want to check it out like in what and all the things is like an available over here, you can check it out all the details as well. Let me go to the home, and here see, here we do have like in, let me go with like in my workspace. Okay, so here, this is the one which we are going to select actually. So see here, this is a method which here in Postman we do have like in my many methods, but the first one get, post, put, patch, delete. So here we do have like in all these things, right? If it is like in creating a record, if you are going to, second, 1 second, guys. Yeah, so if I want to go ahead with like in creating a record, so they will provide you like in all the details in a document, right, with all these details. Okay, one by one. So just give the endpoint over here. After enter, see here, enter request URL. Okay, so here we are going to give the URL of the third party application, and then the method over here we are going to go ahead. And here see the second thing is authentication we have. So here we can select like in what kind of authentication it is. It is a basic authentication or what 1.0, 2.0. If it is like in token related, barrier token will come up. If it is no authentication, we'll click on this one. So let's get into like in basic authentication as an example. If I click on basic authentication, see, I do have a username and password. So they will provide you this username and password, and you can copy paste over here. Okay, and there is a headers as well. So headers is something I have already told you, like, and we have an accept and content type, right? If this is not available, see, accept is nothing, but if it is like in this one, star with a forward slash, everything will be accepted. So what we can do, we can uncheck all this, whatever the things which is not required, you can uncheck, or else you can keep the same thing over there and then select the accept. Okay, let's say example, just click the keep the cursor over here and type the accept and then click on accept. Okay, and accept will come up, select it. Okay, and after that, so here we do have a value, right? Okay, so here we just can give like and see if I type it out like in JSON, application JSON, I got it. So select it. And then in the same way, we can give a content type as well. See, I do have a content type. In that way, we are accepting the JSON and the content type also JSON only. That's how which we can add on. Just for like a testing purpose, and it will be easy as well. No need to get confused. Okay. So after finishing this one, after adding on like in the headers over here, let's get into like in the body. So here, see, the body is nothing but here we have a none, no body, and form data we have. Here we can give like in values of a, the field name and the values and everything. And then this is what a URL encoded. We can use this as well. Mostly we haven't used this one. If I click on raw, okay, so here see, I do have a JSON. If I click on this arrow mark, I have text, JavaScript, JSON, HTML, and XML. So any of the one which you can use, and we can keep it over here. Okay, I'll show you how the JSON type will be there. And then you know about like an text as well, normal text, and then JavaScript is also, and HTML, how that looks, and XML also it's there. We know. We have seen this in updates at concept as well. Okay, so most probably JSON is the one which most of your clients will work on this one. So they will utilize mostly JSON only. Okay, other than the rest of the stuff. Okay, and the body which we will paste it over here. Okay, and what else is like in pending? I have told you like an endpoint is done, request body is done, authentication is done, method I showed you. Okay, I have mentioned like a post over there. And then headers is nothing but I have showed you accept and content type. And the response on HTTP status whenever I clicked on the send. Okay, and here the response will come up. So the robo which we have over here, right? So here the response will be displayed, and then it will show 200, 201 in this area. The cursor which I mentioned here, right? In this area. Okay, next class, what I'll do, I will paste like in my URL, my instance URL over here, and I will mention like in authentications, headers and body, and I will show you how this will work. Okay, so just click on like and send after giving these details. As of now, there is no URL is like an empty there, right? That's why it's not coming up. Previous things, the previous ID which I have previously, I do have like in my project URLs as well, which I can show you. But unfortunately, I lost the credentials for that Postman URL. Postman tool which I have before with that user ID. Okay, so that's what I have installed a new one. So everything is like an empty over here. But whereas if I can go ahead with like in the APIs as well. Okay, so we can create like a new APIs too, but this is not required. Okay, this is not important as well right now. They are going to provide the APIs for you, so that can be utilized over here. Okay, so that's how which we are going to click on send, and if I get a proper response, the sample response which whatever which they are gonna give, okay, and then if I get like a 200 and 201, okay, then that is a success one. So immediately I can start the work in our instance. Okay, if not, if I get like any authentication error or any some other stuff, we can take them into the call, or else we can give a screenshot of this, and we have tried with the proper details in our postman tool, but this is what we are getting an error. So please check from your end and correct the things whatever which you have given is correct or not. Please cross verify or else check it again from your end, so they will check and they will correct if there is something issues happen. Okay, something is like and missing, they will let us know. Okay, and one more thing, you just have to remember that in postman it is working fine, all good. Okay, but whereas whenever I configure in service now instance something is missing, then that's not their fault, it's our fault, something we are missing in our configuration in service now instance. Okay, if it is perfect in postman, then the data whatever which they have provided is really 100% correct, and we are going to utilize those things. Okay, so that's how which we work with like in postman for testing purpose. Okay, this is just for like in testing purpose, whether the data which they have provided is correct or not. Okay, just for like in testing purpose we use this postman tool. Okay, and then after if I get all these things and all, okay, so I'm going to utilize these things in our service now instance in by using like an res message, and I'll configure that, and then I'm going to establish the connection between our service now and a third party application, and the to and fro transactions will go on, whatever the operation might be, creating, deleting or updating or anything that will perform, that will be done actually. So that's how the integration thing, the rest integration will be started. Okay, so now we do have like an only 6 minutes of time, right? I'll go with your questions on this. Okay, so tomorrow let's get into like an service now configuration. Let's say after getting a requirement or have tested and all good, or everything is like in working fine. Okay, then tomorrow we'll discuss how we are going to configure this in our ServiceNow instance and how the communication will be established. And after that, we'll go ahead with like an if it is inbound integration, then we need to provide these details, right? All these details. So I'll tell you how we are going to provide these details. If it is outbound, they will provide these details. If it is an inbound integration, we were going to provide it. So we will discuss that as well next class, how I'm going to provide these details to them. Okay, and furthermore, we'll go with like an rest of his stuff as well. So now I'll go with your questions on this concept, guys. So hope it is clear. If not, let me know. I'll try to rephrase it and will elaborate. All good?
Yeah, Priyanka, but I have a question, Priyanka.
Sure, sure.
If there is a scenario like client is coming and saying if he is using BMC remedy in his organization
Yeah.
and he is expecting to move into service now,
Mm-hmm.
then we can go with this integration, or integration is a concept where we can maintain the communication between two applications, Priyanka.
It's updating total BMC remedy into service now.
Service now. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that we are not gonna do. This is just for like an communicating with a third party application. Okay, BMC remedy is just like an that's a earlier stuff for us, whatever which we have just like a service now only. But the service now, the standards whatever which is there in BMC remedy, they have took it, they have utilized few stuff, and they have implemented, they have developed the service now in tool actually. Okay, so we can communicate with a third party application, but totally we cannot upgrade from one application to other application by using integration. Okay, that is
Okay.
a separate tool, and that is a earlier, service now. The similarities will be there for like in the service now under BMC remedy, but two both are different.
Okay, the inflow and outflow of data, we are using these integrations.
Yeah, exactly. Just to communicate with the third party application, and we will perform these operations. The transactions will go on from that application to this application.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, yeah, good. Any further questions?
No, from my end, Priyanka.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then,
Oh,
guys. Yeah, yes, Venkat, Rupesh, tell me.
no. I'm just saying
All
from my
good?
end also. Yeah, all good.
Okay, okay. Thank you for responding. Fine then. So tomorrow we'll discuss like in the next stuff regarding like in this REST API. Okay. So I'm going to upload this video as well within a few minutes. Check it out, and then try to install Postman and check it out like and how this works and everything. So from next day, which we will check it out like and how the incidents and all these things will be created over here, and we will parallelly check on with the rest of the stuff too. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining then. Bye.
Yeah,
Yes,
Priyanka, is there any sample data for testing, Priyanka?
I'll show you tomorrow.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
there, I'll show you. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
thank you. Bye.
Thank you.